Hi everyone, I'm Jess. I'm Rosie and Bramble's owner. I understand that if we're in a really difficult time at the moment with this whole COVID-19 around the world. So I thought I'd make a video looking at how we can feed our dogs and keep their brains mentally stimulated. I'm not saying I'm a dog trainer or anything like that. I just love finding different ways, tricks and things that I found along the way to occupy a spaniel's brain, mainly for Bramble, because she's really hyper all the time and a walk just doesn't cut it. So if you are feeling unwell and you want different ways to kind of tire out your dogs, here are a few things that might be useful. I thought I'd do this because I know there's people in mass panic at the moment and I just wanted to find some cheap ways for you all to keep your dog occupied. So I hope this is really helpful, and yeah. So all you're going to need is your dog's dinner or breakfast, portioned out, and a Licki Mat. So we've got a couple here, one for Rosie, one for Bramble, but I'm just going to do one to show you. All we're going to do is we're going to pour hot water into the food and we're going to let it steep. So with the cold pressed food for Guru, this doesn't take very long. It'll probably take around 5-10 minutes to properly go into a paste, and then we're going to make it into a paste. If you've got more kind of high heat treated foods, it'll take a little bit longer, but don't worry, it will turn. We're going to make it for a paste, so I'm just going to put some hot water in this now, and I've just pre-boiled the kettle. We're just going to put enough so that it's covered for the time being, so that's enough, and wait for it to steep for a bit. So I'll come back to this in a minute. Okay, so we've got the paste. It's a little bit lumpy, but all we're going to do is spread it onto here. It's spread. I know it doesn't look very appetizing to us, but your dog will love it, trust me. She can't wait for it. Do you want a bit, Rose? Rosie's turn. Good girl. A bit, Ram. Okay, so they will demolish this later. To be honest, if you give it them like that, they'll probably demolish it really quickly. Tiny bit slower than, no, I'd say quite a bit slower than if you just put the food in the bowl. But if you freeze it, stick it in your freezer now like this, and then bring it out probably in about an hour. It's normally frozen actually, about an hour or two, and they'll be ready to eat it instead of having the tea out of a bowl. So that's number one tip. What do we think of that, girls? Yeah? So another kind of thing you can do with the Licki Mats is get half a banana and some natural yogurt, and I mean proper natural yogurt, not one of the ones that is like natural style yogurt because that has loads of sugar in. Mash the banana up, mix it into a paste, spread it on the Licki Mat, do exactly the same as we've just done with their dog food, but just be aware of how much you're feeding them. So take that out of their daily allowance of their normal food if you're going to do that. Okay, so tip number 2 is get yourself a Licki Mat. Or if you're self-quarantining, see if you can get someone to buy you just like a rubber mat from Wilko's and some felt so you can make it up, and all you do is just thread the felt through and tie knots in the hole, sorry. Thread the felt through the little holes and tie knots, and you can make it as dense or as thin as you like. So the denser it is, the more mental stimulation, as it's harder. So this one, it'll probably have loads of dog hair on it, it's quite dense. And what we're going to do is hide treats in it. But for this purpose, I'm going to also put it in a cardboard box. It just makes it that little bit more difficult for my dog to get the treats out of that. All we do is just hide the treats in here, and then they'll use their nose to try and find them. But yeah, so when they're searching for the treats, it stimulates the mind and tires them out a little bit more. So if you're self-isolating, don't feed from a bowl, feed from this, feed from the Licki Mat, feed from a Kong. And I'll show you which Kongs I've got afterwards. Okay, so I've just got some natural fish treats, so that's just 80% fish and 20% potatoes, so they're really quite natural. She's already wanting to go for it. I would recommend using dry treats, otherwise your dog will probably destroy the mat because it'll forever have the scent on of the wet treats if you put chicken in it, and it'll just start to smell. So I'm just going to hide some treats in here. Wait. Bramble, wait. Good girl. Hang on. Bramble, sit. Yes. Wait. So I'm just separating the bits of felt and hanging. Wait. You're so excited. Hang on, darling. Wait, sit. Good. Okay, found it. So she's got to go over the box, and she's not quite a big fan of cardboard boxes, so I'm just going to help her out a little bit. Go on then, find it. Okay, so she's just using her nose to find those treats. What you can do if you don't want to use a Licki Mat is, unfortunately, I was going to show you some other ways of using the cardboard boxes today, but my recycling has just been taken by the bin men. So what you could do is get multiple different boxes and cardboard and really mash it up inside a big box, and then hide the treats in different things. So if you have a smaller box, use that, put treats inside that, inside another box, and your dogs could be searching for ages, and just use the command to find it, and they'll start getting the idea of what they're doing. Alternatively, you could hide treats around your living room, around the house, and tell them to go find it. Just be really inventive, and they'll love you for it as well. But what I would suggest afterwards is just tipping the mat upside down, making sure no treats are in there, and then remove this, as I know Bramble can smell the dry treats on this and tends to like trying to chew the felt, so I would remove it if you want it to last a little bit longer. I hope that's helpful. So that's tip number 2. So for this next kind of mental stimulating thing, such a professional, we're gonna put treats in these little test tubes, and what the dog has to do is turn it for the treats to come out. So there's different size lids. I'm just gonna grab them. So I've got 2 lids, so there's one with small holes in, and then there's one with a bigger hole in for those bigger pieces of kibble. So I'm just going to put a few in here, so that you can see my dog working it. Just makes them slow down a little bit, works their minds out to figure out how to get the food out of these little test tubes. So I got this as well from Amazon. I think it's called Trixie Scientist Level 2. If anyone has any questions, you can just message me on Instagram and I'll send you the link. But I would highly recommend this. I bought this when Bramble was a puppy because we were really worried about her being really hyper and energetic with having an older dog who's coming up 13 this year. But they actually work on this together, so it's really nice to see. So I'll show you one moment. Okay, so here's both of them working together at it. We love this to feed their meals from. Obviously when we're feeding meals we have to do it separately, but when it's just treats they can work together, because Bramble's a little bit of a greedy guts. This actually enabled Rosie to stop graze feeding. So she used to graze feed and not really eat her food much. Find it, and yeah, she stopped, and I think Rosie's gonna have a go at the box over there. She's straight in. So these are really great ways of making food exciting for your dogs, a bit of fun, something different, and they really have to work out how to get the food. So where there's food, usually the dog will find out how to get it. As you can see, the smaller the holes, the harder it is, but both dogs can do it. Rosie's 12, she's never had anything like this before. We've got Bramble, and Bramble got it straight away when she was 12 weeks old. So it's really nice to watch them work together as a team. Oh yeah, if you've got a bigger dog, as you can see this is swaying a bit. If you've got something heavy like a brick or something you can put on the base so it doesn't tip over, that would be really helpful for you. As you can see, Rosie's quite aggressive with it because she really wants to get the treat. But yeah, hope that's helpful. So that's number 1. I think these retail at about $8.99, $9.99 on Amazon. There's loads of different ones on eBay as well, but I'm not sure. I can't tell you how good they are, but this Trixie one is really good. Yeah, so that's number 3. So I've got some different Kong toys which you may already have. One of them is more like a ball shape, and it's just got a hole in there with a really tiny hole at the bottom. It's quite cruel. I stick in quite big treats, so they're really hard to get out. So the more that they roll them inside, they rub up against each other and start breaking and falling out. So what I'm putting in at the moment is just these little, I don't know if you can see them, little bones, and that keeps Bramble occupied for ages, although it does go under the TV quite often. She just looks at you like, can you get it out now? I want my treats. Yeah, so that's one. So I'll give that to her now. Do you want it? Good girl. This one is really great if you've got any wet dog food. So what I like to do, I've got some 4th grade salmon, I think it's called salmon complete meal or something. And I just spoon a little bit in here and give it to them, so it's another way of feeding your dog, but also keeping them occupied a little bit. Another thing I have, this looks pretty disgusting because it's very well used at the moment by my dog. It's called a dog root chew, and it's a type of wood that when the dog chews it, it crumbles and it doesn't smell. Similar to how you can get an antler, but Bramble really likes the wood, so she chews on this quite often. And to get her started on it, I just kind of rubbed a little bit of coconut oil or a little bit of butter on it, and then she was chewing it for ages. So she's well entertained with this. She will go at it for hours. And also with this bowl, Bramble, bring it here. Bring it here. Good girl. Okay, so even with this one, there's little things where you can wedge the treats on the outside as well. So there's some easier ways to get the food. You can just wedge it in between there. But as you can see, there's still food in there and she's still waiting for it. So I'm just gonna let her carry on. I think my dogs are loving the fact that we're filming this video because they're getting all the treats. So yeah. So another helpful tool I use, which is pretty cheap, are these slow feeders. So I've got this one for Bramble, and I put all of the food in this usually. We don't feed from a normal bowl at all. Also, what you can do if you don't want to feed your dog from a bowl is you can scatter food on the garden, and they'll truly be using their natural instincts to find the food and sniffing, which is really great for them. But at the moment, you can see Bramble is eating her food off the Licki Mat, which she's incredibly enjoying quite a bit. And she'll be there for a while, but there's the little kind of rubber things is quite relaxing and soothing as well, as licking for dogs tires them out. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. There's some other things that I would like to suggest is if you are self-isolating and you feel okay, obviously you can still street walk your dog, you can still walk your dog as long as you're socially distancing. But also if you are self-isolating, you're feeling well, but well enough to play with your dog, you might take your dog into the garden and play a tug game, play fetch, teach it fetch, or teach them a new trick. I know I will be teaching Bramble and Rosie some new tricks over the next few weeks, as I'm self-employed, so all my work at the moment has come to a standstill with me working in the theatre industry, unfortunately. But fortunately I'm going to have lots and lots of time to spend with my little doggies. So if you have any questions about anything I've talked about in this video, which I was not expecting people to want, let me know, send me a message or comment below, whether that's about the food that I use, the treats I use, or any of the products that I've discussed. I can send you links and things like that if that's helpful. And if you use any of the tips or tricks I've shared with you today, please hashtag Rosie and Bramble and we can repost them and send you some love. But also stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves, look after your dogs, and look after the vulnerable and the elderly. And hopefully this will blow over and we can all go back to living normal-ish lives, okay? But with that, thank you very much. So that's a bye from me and Bramble, and we'll keep you updated of how we're doing